Good morning, brethren, and welcome to our bi-weekly program entitled A Glance at the Word, which is broadcast live on Facebook every Monday and every Wednesday at 8 a.m. West Africa time, which is 7 a.m. GMT. Today is Monday, the 30th of May 2022, and our topic this morning is entitled Delegation of Responsibilities. Delegation of Responsibilities. Let's read in the book of Exodus to understand well what we are talking about. Let's read Exodus chapter 18, verses 14 to 24. Exodus chapter 18, verses 14 to 24. So when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did for the people, he said, "What is this thing that you are doing for the people? Why do you alone sit and all the people stand before you from morning till evening?" And Moses said to his father-in-law, "Because the people come to me to inquire of God. When they have a difficulty, they come to me, and I judge between one and another, and I make known the statutes of God and his laws." So Moses' father-in-law said to him, "The thing that you do is not good. Both you and these people who are with you will surely wear yourselves out, for this thing is too much for you. You are not able to perform it by yourself. Listen now to my voice. I will give you counsel, and God will be with you. Stand before God for the people, so that you may bring the difficulties to God. And you shall teach them the statutes and the laws, and show them the way in which they must walk and the work they must do. Moreover, you shall select from all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And let them judge the people at all times. Then it will be that every great matter they shall bring to you, but every small matter they themselves shall judge. So it will be easier for you, for they will bear the burden with you. If you do this thing, and God so commands you, then you will be able to endure, and all these people will also go to their place in peace." So Moses heeded the voice of his father-in-law and did all that he had said. You see, every person has a mission, or at least a set of duties that God has given him or that God has given her. And when you have a mission, or when you have a set of duties to fulfill, you are responsible for the accomplishment or for the completion of that mission or of that set of duties. So being responsible for something means that you have a number of responsibilities in relation with that thing. In the scripture that we read, we see that Moses was well aware of his responsibilities toward the children of Israel, because God had appointed Moses as the leader who would take Israel out of Egypt into Canaan. So the children of Israel were many. The children of Israel were many, and Moses had to lead them through the wilderness to Canaan. And Canaan was a land that they didn't know at all. All throughout their lives, these Israelites had only been slaves in Egypt, except Moses, of course, who had been raised in the palace of Pharaoh. Yet, even Moses himself later on became a fugitive. Thus, he lost his quality of a free man. He lost his freeman quality. Yet I imagine that among them, among those Israelites, Moses was the only one who had ever been out of Egypt for a while. He was the only one who had seen a land out of Egypt. So all the other Israelites were seeing a land different from the land of Egypt for the very first time. They had never been out of Egypt being slaves. Thus all the Israelites were only counting on Moses. They were counting on Moses for everything. Not only to lead them physically, and they were not counting on Moses only to lead them physically to their final destination, that was Canaan, but also to lead them spiritually and socially. So anytime that they had any dispute, anytime that they had any difficulty, anytime that they had any issue, or anytime that they had any conflict among them, they would only report to Moses. Moses was their leader. Moses whom they were trusting so much. And Moses was very serious in dealing with their matters. Moses was very serious in fulfilling his duties, since he was very well aware of his responsibilities in this matter. And as people used to say, Moses put all his heart in this matter. He put all his heart dealing with the problems of the Israelites. So Moses was so involved in solving all the people's issues and problems that he barely had any spare time for himself. He would be sitting from morning till evening only settling matters. So Moses was obviously a great leader. He was directly appointed by God himself, and so far he seemed to be handling fairly well all the different disputes and conflicts among the people. But this couldn't last forever. This couldn't last any longer, or Moses would be both physically and mentally exhausted. Moses would be worn out, and the people also would be worn out. So his father-in-law Jethro, who certainly had more leadership experience, advised Moses to delegate some of his responsibilities to a few chosen, faithful, and reliable other persons. And those persons could then settle mild or common matters, leaving to Moses only big matters. So Moses would only then be dealing with more important matters. He would be dealing only with much greater issues, leaving the small issues to the appointed rulers of tens, to the appointed rulers of 50s, the appointed rulers of hundreds, and the appointed rulers of thousands. So each of these rulers would be reporting to the ruler above him. This is a very clear example of the delegation of responsibilities. The delegation of responsibilities is something very important because it eases your work and it gives you peace of mind. The delegation of responsibilities helps you have more time both for yourself and for your work as well. The delegation of responsibilities helps you secure enough resting time for you as well as for others, so that you can renew your energy, you can renew your forces, you can renew yourself, and you can even find time to be with God. So if you are a ruler, or if you are a leader in any area, you must learn to delegate some of your responsibilities. Delegating at least part of your responsibilities will make you more effective and more efficient in what you would be doing. Let's now read Luke chapter 6. Luke chapter 6, verses 12 and 13. Luke chapter 6, verses 12 and 13. Now it came to pass in those days that he went out to the mountain to pray and continued all night in prayer to God. And when it was day, he called his disciples to himself, and from them he chose 12, whom he also named apostles. So this concerns Jesus Christ, of course. Let's also read Matthew chapter 10, verse 1. Matthew chapter 10, verse 1. And when he had called his 12 disciples to him, he gave them power over unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal all kinds of sickness and all kinds of disease. You see, nobody is so great a leader that he doesn't need any helper. Nobody is so great a leader that he doesn't need to delegate at least part of his responsibilities. Nobody. You see that even Jesus Christ, the very Son of God himself, needed to delegate part of his responsibilities to 12 of his disciples, whom he appointed as apostles, as we read in Luke chapter 6, verses 12 to 13, and also in Matthew chapter 10, verse 1. In Matthew chapter 10, verse 1, in Matthew chapter 10, verse 1, we saw that Jesus, we saw the responsibilities that Jesus gave his chosen apostles. He delegated very important responsibilities. Yet, though Jesus was the Son of God, though we know that Jesus was actually God, but as a man, he didn't just choose his apostles on the spur of the moment. He didn't just arise one day and say, you, Simon, John, James, Bartholomew, I choose you as apostles. No. The man Jesus spent a whole prayer night to prepare for the selection of those disciples to whom he would delegate part of his responsibilities. He spent a whole prayer night in the presence of his Father, in the presence of God. Choosing people to whom you have to delegate part of your responsibilities is not a simple matter. It is not something that you have to take lightly. It is not without any spiritual implication. So when you are about to delegate part of your responsibilities, you must ask for God's advice. You must ask for God's help. You must seek the help of God in that matter. You must ask God to lead you in your choice. You don't just arise one day and say, today I'm going to delegate part of my responsibilities to 7 persons. So let me just throw dice. Let me just throw dice, and to whom the dice will fall, then I will call that person to delegate my power to him, my responsibilities to him. No. You have to seek God in prayer. You have to stand before God. You have to seek God's counsel. You have to seek God's advice. You have to seek God's help before choosing the people that you have to use as your helpers, as your collaborators, as the person to whom you're going to delegate part of your responsibilities. You must ask God to lead you in your choice. Thus, God will lead you to righteous, faithful, reliable, God-fearing people whom you can then trust fully. And depending on the kind of responsibilities that you have to delegate, the people to whom God will lead you would also be skillful and knowledgeable. So you see, Jesus Christ, who was the Son of God, who normally didn't need to pray, spent a whole night in prayer. He spent a whole night seeking God's face. He spent a whole night receiving God's advice, receiving God's counsel, receiving God's help in the choice of the 12 apostles. And in the morning, when he came down for the mountain, that is only then that he called all his disciples before him and chose 12 reliable men among them, 12 God-fearing men among them, 12 faithful men among them, 12 righteous men among them. But even in that case, a mistake could be made. And we know that Judas Iscariot was also among them. Judas Iscariot was not that righteous because he was a thief. Judas Iscariot was not that serious, that trustful, because he's the one who betrayed Jesus later on. But what is important here, what we want to stress on, is that whenever you want to delegate part of your responsibilities as a leader, as a ruler, you first have to go to God and seek advice from Him. You have to seek God in prayer before choosing the men or the people to whom you have to delegate your responsibilities. We're going to stop here today and continue with the same topic on Wednesday, because on Wednesday we will see that the delegation of responsibilities is not always positive. It may also have a negative outcome. But that we'll talk about it on Wednesday, and we'll see how to avoid that negative outcome. God bless you abundantly beyond all your expectations, and have a very, very positive and good week.